Okay, thank you. We are back on the record, so I will call the cards that I have in the order that I have them. The first is for Carl, and I apologize in advance if I mispronounce anything. I promise you, I am notoriously bad about this, but I give it my best. Carl Tacona?
Iacona.
Okay.
Pretty darn good.
Thank you. Would you like to speak today, sir?
Yeah.
Okay, if you could come forward to the podium, please, so we can capture your comments on the record.
Okay, so.
Thank you, sir, and thank you today for coming.
Well, I'm not happy to be here, but I figure what the heck, let's find out what's going on. And, I don't butt up against those property that's being developed. However, I do have some questions in regard to water. So currently there's a chain link fence that goes down, and then from what I understand, there's a 10-foot easement you're going to provide, and then sort of a berm, and then an 8-foot wall, so to speak.
We'll get clear. Well, actually, if you'd like to clarify, that will probably be a
Okay.
information.
So-
I'm going to let her answer that really quickly.
There's going to be an 8-foot high solid wall. And that wall could be anything from PVC vinyl, it could be concrete block and stucco along the entire west property line, clear to the IDD canal easement.
Okay, so.
Then it'll stop.
Okay,
But
so
no chain link
you
fence.
you didn't answer my question, or didn't understand the question, but you did answer another question. That question was, you said it could be anything, from PVC to whatever. Well, don't waste your money on PVC. Okay? We all know that from me. All right? The other thing is, you said you're going to plant stuff in front of that wall there. So I'm assuming there's going to be dirt there. That's what I mean by berm. Okay? So that means it creates a pitch. Then you have the fence. What happens to the water that lays in between there? Currently, right now, when it rains, it gets distributed through the property. Now with the berm, it's going to sit there. And you have a heavy rain, it may start backing up into the community. Or you're going to pitch it so it'll go into Kelly Road, or you're going to make some arrangements to put it into the lake. That's one question, okay?
Do you want to answer this question?
That's okay. I'm going to take notes of this. I just wanted that first question about the wall, I want it clarified because that would probably be helpful as we go forward.
Well, it's the drainage actually for the wall, and then there's the construction or the material for the wall. The second thing I had was the existing square lake that's there now. You said that everything was going to drain into that.
Yes, that is what they said.
Okay. Where's that drain to?
That was the question that I asked as well, so
Okay,
I'll have them
so-
clarify that again.
And the last question I have is I guess it's building number 1, the one up in the northern corner.
Yes.
So there'll be no balconies on it facing the community or the west community there, or Beach Walk Isles?
That is correct.
is
That's one
correct.
of the conditions that they
Will
have.
be windows on that side of the building?
I'll make a note of that so we can ask that question.
Go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you for coming today.
The next card that I have is for Domingos Laureano. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. And my concern is the undefined, at least I perceive, undefined state of the wall versus a berm. I'd like to see a defined wall, 8-foot wall, concrete, so that we stop this conversation. It could be this, it could be that. Please force the developer to make a statement, a clear statement. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir, for coming today.
The next one I have is for B. Ligaro.
I'm sorry. Yes, you wouldn't want to speak today? Okay.
Timothy Ray, or Donna.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. We had concerns, again, we're a property that abuts that west side of the parking lot over there. And our concern, again, is the water flow, the existing water flow. And I'm understanding our level is 9.5 feet, they're gonna be at 11, somewhere that water has to go. And that's the concern that we have. As well, they talked about the environmental concerns, and they said they don't know what impact it has, but we know, at least in our neighborhood, what waterfowl we have, and turtles and everything else we have, and the impact all of that is going to have on the environment and on the wildlife that are already there. So we just have our concerns.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for coming today. The next one I have is Lucia Perez Anderson. Lucia? No? Okay. Cheryl Smith? No. Okay. Vicky Brenna? No. Okay. John O'Brien?
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I forgot this one. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, and thank you for allowing us the opportunity to speak this afternoon. I had a plethora of notes. Some of them have been answered. Others I have serious concerns over. But nonetheless, you know, I have to, from the beginning, just read what I had, even though some of it, the scare tactics, some of it that was said this afternoon, I'm still going to go forward with it. So thank you for the opportunity to voice the concerns of the affirmation project on Kelly Road. I am one of a few homeowners, and I'm going to let you know right now, I'm one of the 2 for building number 1, who experienced and witnessed a complete land clearing while being told by the clearer that all was in order and permits and permissions were given. Well, I found the clearing of that entire land very interesting and a strange form of introduction from the developer. I'd like to first object to the request to enlarge the size of the whole project from 46 to 69 units. Such a size in a small space will have a multitude of adverse effects on the existing community. Now, having said that, and listening to everything that's said, I'm not so sure I agree fully with this objection of from 46 to 69. But what I do object to is the unsettling indecision on this so-called berm, so-called wall. It's very, very important. As I said, I'm right in front of building number 1, that we need a 2 to 3 foot berm and an 8-foot concrete wall put up there. Many, many parts of this of PVC and everything, they get blown over, destroyed, weed whacked by a landscaper, and they just get broken. We need a concrete wall that's just going to stand up to the weather. God forbid we get another 100-year storm, but chances are we will. So let's address that 100-year storm and this piece of land. I know there's people in here that have pictures of what that looked like after the hurricane left. Drainage? There isn't any. Draining into that pond didn't exist. That entire area was underwater and stayed that way until the ground reabsorbed it. So having said that, if you raise up that land, as someone's saying they're going to 11 feet, and again, I haven't heard actual proof of that from these folks or the developer, but if you do, where's that water going to go? I don't want it to end up in my pool, to be perfectly honest with you. Okay, I guess that's really my serious concern. You know, others that have nothing to do with zoning in terms of economic, will that have an economic effect on some of those houses right there? Well, God forbid that they do, but chances are they will. Some of those houses are selling for over $700,000. Not mine. I'm not on the water. But nonetheless, they will have an adverse effect. So to protect it as much as possible visually, we all entertain in our backyards. We all have lanais and pools. You know, I don't want people staring at me, not me personally, but the kids when they're in the pool. So having said that, where are the balconies? You know, I didn't get a straight answer when I asked, probably because no one knows yet. But are there balconies on the parking lot side of building number 1? You know, if so, they are definitely looking at every one of those houses all the way up. And that is a major concern also. Thank you kindly, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you, sir. The next card I have is for Periette O'Brien.
I don't want to speak, I didn't check to talk. I certainly don't.
The next card I have is for Peter Strahl.
Just two things.
Good afternoon.
Storm that we just had 6 months ago. Did anybody take consideration? Sorry about the voice. From fuel fire that we never addressed on this. Anybody know where these helicopters are going? We had one go down in October. It didn't blow up because it was out of fuel. But they do go over these buildings. And there's 2 cell phone towers on Pine Ridge Road that they have to go around. Now they have to go around buildings. So that means they're coming over my house, like the last one. I was one of the first ones there. And if they're full of fuel, we're gonna have a major problem. I was at 9/11. That's why I have my voice from jet fuel. So that, the drainage, the storm, we had 8 inches of water in our streets that we never had before. I bought the house in 04. In 18, we had 2 inches in the street and it went away right away. This stayed for a little while, and now it's got nowhere to go because there's cement all around us. They built the other condos on Pine Ridge and Gladiolus, and there's nowhere for the water to go. We have animals all around our neighborhood. Bobcats at night, raccoons, possums. Now there's going to be more because they have nowhere to go. And a fence wall is not going to do it. We need a cement wall. We have a fence there now and it doesn't work. And consider the helicopters going over those buildings. Because now, the way you got Kelly Road, Pine Ridge Road, and these buildings, there's only 2 ways for those helicopters to come in. The first way is over our houses. And I'm on the water side, on the lake, and they get close to coming over. I can imagine what's going to happen now, because they have no drainage. So, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. The next one I have is for Shannon Bell.
Thank you. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to speak today. First, a lot of my concerns are mirrored by my neighbors as well. My major concern is the water flow. As we've been speaking, I know it's not necessarily part of zoning, but as we've been kind of speaking and everybody's been testifying to, when Irma happened, that water was completely underwater. Even when Harvey hit the other side of the state, you know, it was underwater and I had alligators in my pool. You know, so it was, we have seen a drastic difference since there has been development, Channel Side being the first one, and then Seaside, which is old folks home in our subdivision. So when those things all started to happen and all that water, you know, all that land gets cleared, there's nowhere for that water to go. And, you know, you may have a 3-inch pipe or a 6-inch pipe, but only so much water can go through there versus it being dispensed amongst the ground. And I understand how the zoning, you know, was dated way back when, but that's my first and biggest concern, because I do butt up against what would be building 3 in the parking lot there. So that being said, I just would ask that there be a masonry type fence be constructed versus PVC, just for privacy and noise, and to what we've said that, you know, it's not going to withhold in a storm. And then I would ask that a safety study be done for the helipad that does exist. You know, the 4-story, 3-story buildings will be in their line of sight, so I'd ask that a safety study be done to confirm that that is a viable thing that could actually happen. And then my other concern is, you know, obviously the balconies on buildings 3 and 4, are they just going to be facing the lake, or are they also going to be facing the property to, you know, the subdivisions? It looks like it's a very small building, so I don't know if it's just going to be like, you know, one on each side, or if it's just slated to just be a one-sided, you know, or one, you know, I don't know what you'd call those, but like a townhome kind of thing. So if that's the case, will the balconies just be on the other side, or will they be facing us? So would be the question I would have to ask. And then also, you know, really what's preventing this company from coming in, developing it, getting it established, similar to what we saw with Channelside and Seaside. You know, they come in, they develop it, and then they sell. And then the quality of the tenant goes down and the quality of the property goes down. I mean, we have it right in our backyard. Channelside has gone down tremendously. And so, you know, Del Sol is like, no one even wants to go in there because it's unsafe, you know. So, and Seaside actually is, you know, been sold a couple times too. So what's preventing the decisions we make today may say that it's for middle income. They may say it's for, you know, firemen and whatnot for the bonus, but what's to hold us to that standard? So that's the only questions. And then other than that, you know, thank you for your time, and thank you for letting me voice my concerns.
Thank you. Thank you so much for coming today. The next card I have is for Brad Marcourt. Is Brad here?
He left the building.
Oh, okay. Will he be back? Do you know?
I don't think so.
Okay. Mary Buckley. Good afternoon.
Hi. Okay, my concern is I live across the street from the driveway. My driveway is across the street, and the traffic on Kelly Road is already pretty backed up. We have trouble pulling out of the driveway, and I just think that many more residences would add to that, obviously, having only that one driveway, nowhere else to exit or enter. And my other concern is, and it was brought up, that when that land was cleared, I smelled dead animals for a week, and they had no permit. And the county came out about a week later, and I walked over because I noticed his flashing light, and I talked to him, and he said, "Why didn't you call us?" And I said, "Well, I didn't know." And he said, "They had no permit to do this. They obviously killed all the animals, all the trees, without a permit." And it was disturbing to me. And so it makes me wonder how honest they'll be about what, moving forward, if that was their initial reaction. I don't trust that very much. So the traffic, and if they could, they wouldn't be able to widen the road, I would hope, or, you know, I can only envision my peace and quiet in my property not being the same. So those are my concerns.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For coming today. The next card I have is for Rudy and Karen Walmart. Good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you for having us. Well, we sat back, we listened quietly to everything that's being addressed today. Some questions were answered, not necessarily to our liking. We understand that the project is moving forward. That will happen with or without any of our, whether we oppose it or not. So to address many of our concerns would be what would be first and foremost. We think that some of the deviations are, they sound pretty on paper, but they really won't be effective. We feel that it will have a detrimental impact on our community as well as the surrounding communities. Nearly all residents in our community and surrounding communities are concerned. Some of the concerns include, there aren't limited to, traffic and safety, property values, privacy, flooding, light pollution, noise pollution, tree and wildlife of what remains, and waste management. First and foremost, the proposed development, in my opinion, simply seems way too large for the area. The increased population would put a strain on our roadways, increased traffic congestion. We already endure traffic incidences all the time. There's the community school, why am I drawing a blank? Harlem Heights, and that's on Gladiolus. That is gridlock every morning and every afternoon. People come from all over Fort Myers to attend that school, not including the bicyclists and the, it would just be, I think, a burden. The multi-dwelling family that does not require purchase is a concern for the impact of the value of our homes. Many of us have purchased many years ago. Some of us have purchased recently. So we have the potential to see a decline in our investments. That's concerning. We also don't believe that a 10-foot buffer wall from our property line really would be adequate for our privacy, including noise pollution, light pollution. You would imagine that there would be, the lighting hasn't been addressed. What type of lighting are they going to have out there? Is it going to look like a football field? And again, that would really leave a very minimal amount of space for any form of landscape and maintenance between the proposed wall and our chain link fence line. About the proposed wall, anything other than concrete, honestly, would not be feasible in a tropical storm, let alone even the weakest of hurricanes or in another 100-year storm. It would really infringe on our right to peacefully and privately enjoy our properties. Drainage is a major issue. We are one of the homes that butt up against this development, future development, and my backyard, just from the chain link fence and coming down, and the drainage from the flooding really damaged our backyard. And that was from that development, from that property that came into ours. There is a fear that we can go underwater, at least all of the homes, with the slope in the drainage. Increased cars and traffic, I already addressed. The remaining trees and wildlife, I see it every day from my backyard, as I'm sure everybody else that lives here does, that butts up against that. We don't know exactly what was removed when they cleared the land, but I can tell you that because so many endangered species, or not, have been displaced because of the most recent hurricane, I have seen a high influx of all sorts of wildlife migrate to the area. I don't know if they nest, but I have seen eagles land and perch. So that is something that seriously needs to be looked into. Again, I spoke about lighting requirements that could, without a doubt, have an adverse effect on our property. Let's see, the trees and wildlife, waste management, that's another concern. Where will they put all of their trash compactors? They inevitably are going to be somewhere in their parking lot. So that brings garbage, rodents, odors, and these are our homes, okay? Considerations have been addressed, the Sheriff's Department, the helicopter pad. I'm also very concerned that the flight path would put them directly over our homes, increasing noise pollution. All of the deviations that they requested, because they can't build or meet any, some of the requirements, I think that they should not be permitted, and some of our concerns that impact us really need to be addressed. And I would hope and ask that before approval of this moving forward, that they are laid out in detail. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for coming today. Mary Tamilia.
Good afternoon.
I live on Beachcomber Ave, and I'm in lot 76, which is the specific lot on Beachcomber where the land narrows the most to this project that is being discussed today. Since becoming aware that there would be apartments being built behind my property, I have been very concerned and sad. Excuse me. At how close to my property line my privacy would be invaded. And I have agonized on what I could say to you that would actually make a difference. When this property was originally purchased many years ago, the owners bought this knowing that the parcel had an unusual shape. And with the stipulation of a 35-foot easement at that time, 20 for drainage and 15 for a buffer, because they knew that this butted up to a residential development. This was known at the time and accepted at the time. The current owners are requesting multiple deviations to the original agreement as they intend to build multifamily units. The number of units proposed has changed from 46 to 69, with 23 bonus units under the Affordable Housing Program. I strongly oppose the proposed density increase from 46 to 69. The two major roads, Pine Ridge and Kelly Road, there are only 2 lanes, one in each direction. You know, you've been there. They're already highly congested with numerous accidents at this busy intersection. Ms. Veronica stated that the 23 bonus units for police officers, firefighters, and medical staff would be the applicants. Would they always be vetted? Would it be the same if it was sold? Probably not. Okay? So I really don't find truth in that. I understand the current owners have every intention of building. That is their right. But I feel adamantly that there needs to be consideration of the build, as it will be highly invasive to my home and the surrounding homes on Beachcomber Ave. Never did I imagine buying my house 3 years ago that I would be looking at apartment buildings directly behind my backyard fence. There is a Florida statute called the Covenant of Quiet Enjoyment, which states the right to use and enjoy your property. All homeowners in the state of Florida have this right, known as the Quiet Enjoyment Law. This Quiet Enjoyment Law refers to a legal term contained in real estate law where a property holder has the right to an unimpaired use of their property. I vehemently oppose the building of a 3-story dwelling behind my home. It would be much more agreeable to approve a 2nd-story building and not a 3-story building. With a 2nd-story building, we would be able to preserve some privacy and stabilize the current property values of our neighborhood. I know the moneymaker for these apartments will be what they call the lake views, and not me in my backyard pool. However, there will still be some windows on the building which face my house. I'd like to ask that the windows be opaque glass, otherwise known as privacy glass, as this would allow for light but privacy for both the renter and us as homeowners. I understand the corporate world and I know that apartments will be built. I'm asking that the board not grant an easement to be less than 15 feet along the property separation and to have a masonry wall only built at a height of no less than 8 feet to maintain the noise level and the visual impact of the vehicle lights that would be coming in and out of the parking. And any buffer trees to be at least 15 to 20 feet in height at planting. As you know, a person's home is their most valuable asset because it is the most expensive investment that we have. And most of us have worked 30, if not more years to accomplish it. I implore you to make considerations to help preserve and protect our rights as homeowners and taxpayers in this community. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for coming today. The next one I have is for Marlon Flannery. Marlin here? No, okay. And Thomas Seal.
It's Tom Seeley, but that's fine.
I apologize, sir, I got so close.
No problem.
Thank you.
If you write me a check, I'll still cash it.
Thank you for coming
Good
today.
afternoon. I got kind of a lengthy statement. Some of it's been covered, some of it has not. My wife and I, Karen, have lived at 15673 Beachcomber Avenue, which is lot 69, and we do abut the property that's in question. We are one of the 10 properties that do attach to that particular property, and we are very concerned about the increase from the 46 units to the 69. One of the main concerns that we have, and I won't go through the numbers or anything like that because that's already been done, is traffic. If we have an additional 23 units, from the way I calculate that, most individuals have 2 cars. So if you have an additional 46 cars going in and out, let's say twice daily, that's 92 more cars that we don't have at the present, not even counting the 46 or the other 92 that'll be going in and out. And that traffic on both Kelly Road and Pine Ridge Roads, as you've been hearing from all of us, has been very congested already. The other deviation that I'm concerned about is the buffer. They're allowing for a 15-foot buffer, but they're placing their wall, so to speak, and again, I will emphasize that wall needs to be either solid concrete or concrete block, not PVC, because PVC just blows apart and it just won't last. So for the additional privacy, we definitely need the concrete wall. However, even though they're saying 15 foot, they are placing the wall at 10 feet. Why? I do not understand that, other than the fact that they're asking for green space between the wall and the parking lot. What's the intent of the green space? Yeah, maybe to give you a little bit more natural feel, but moving that wall to the full 15 feet would make more sense to me if this project is approved. Not only 15 feet down at my end, which is the southwest corner of the property, but I believe there has been a variance given to the northwest corner as well, to where the wall which was originally 10 feet, got moved to 15 feet. But I understand there's a 20-foot buffer there, so why is the wall not 20 foot instead of 15? That's my question. I don't know, and so that's one other thing. My other major concern is because of I kind of took it as a threat that they could build a 6-story building, or they could move the buildings toward the west property line. That may be so, but I've worked with developers over the years because I am a realtor as well, and they will put it around the lake. So I don't like the threat of them saying they're going to build over our community. That I just don't take that as a plus. So again, that kind of puts a negative effect to me against the developer already, not counting the fact that they went in and cleaned everything out without any permits. And like everybody said, who knows what animals were actually there? I mean, we see bobcats, we see raccoons, we see all kinds of animals now coming back that were there before, and there could have been burrowing owls there, there could have been all kinds of stuff that we don't know. So that's definitely a negative effect on my side. Rezoning, the other thing that I'm concerned about changing the rezoning is the lake. They're going to fill in a lot of that lake, so there's a big concern for drainage. I have a picture that was given to me by a neighbor, and I'd like to give to you, that shows what that property looked like during the last hurricane. It was totally underwater. So if you're now putting in a parking lot with paved roads, paved streets, whatever, that water has to go somewhere. It can no longer be saturated into the ground. And they're pushing all that water, from the way I read it, back to the southeast corner, which is the corner of Pine Ridge Road and Kelly Road. There is only so much that drainage can handle. So now it's going to handle water on full 4.6 acres of property, where before it was spread across the whole 4.6 acres. So drainage is a big concern of mine. And if you keep it, excuse me, if you reduce the number of units that is already allowed to 46 units, that also reduces the number of parking spaces that they need, which would then shrink that, which would then allow them a larger buffer between us and their development. So if you're going from basically, from my calculations, from a total of a 69 at 157 parking spots down to 111, that should gain you roughly an extra 15 foot of buffer. Maybe not down to where building 1 is, but pretty much the whole other length. But still, I believe building 1 can still be shifted a little bit more to the east from where it's presently at. Because I agree with the two property owners that are going to be right there at building 1. They're going to be, I don't care whether there's windows on that side, stairways on that side or not. You have balconies that are more likely going to be on the back, so they're going to be viewing what's going on in the neighborhood. My other concern is, and it's been brought up as well, is where the dumpsters are going to be put. You know, smelling trash is the last thing that I want to do. And I know they said they were putting it over in, I believe, the southeast corner. Is that correct? So, I mean, that kind of answers my question on that. But still, you know, how many dumpsters? Is that the only place the dumpsters are going to be? You know, are they going to be scattered throughout the community or what? The other thing is the helicopter path. I mean, you're now putting up 35 to 45 foot buildings that were not there before, and which is eliminating the path that the sheriff helicopter has to be able to access the helipad. You know, those are basically my major concerns. I had other things, but they were pretty much answered. But I'm concerned about the legal rights to rightfully and peacefully enjoy my property. That's my big concern, as well as the values of these homes. Okay, I thank you for your time.
Thank you for confirming. That was the last card that I had. Was there anyone else that wanted to speak today? Did not get an opportunity? Okay, then we'll close the public comment. Do the applicant and staff need time before we start rebuttal, or are you ready to begin?
I may need a few minutes to concur with.
Okay, it's 3:07 right now, so we'll come back. Do you think 10, 15 minutes? Is that sufficient? 5. Okay, so we'll come back at 3:15. Let's just call it that. Thank you. So we've got a short break until 3:15. Okay, we're back on the record, and we'll begin now with the rebuttal if the applicant's ready to begin.
Thank you. Adam, are you able to bring up the master concept plan again?
Yes.
Thank you. So I tried to write down as many questions as I could. A lot of them were repeat questions. A lot of the questions are development order level questions, but I am going to try to answer them to the best of my ability since we have not yet submitted a development order, and that is still in progress. So I'm going to go one at a time here. Objections to bonus density and how it gets approved. Bonus density, because this is part of a planned development rezoning application, will actually get approved by the Board of County Commissioners. It is a legal agreement that the applicant enters into, and the 23 additional units that are part of the bonus density will be required to be leased for a designated number of years to those moderate income residents. I believe it's between 7 and 10 years, but it's been a while since I have had a bonus density application go to the board. So even if the applicant did sell this land to another owner, the requirements of the bonus density approval will still hold true. So just give me a minute as I try to go through each comment here.
Can I interrupt you for a second?
Sure.
Does that apply to just the 23 units?
Yes, sir.
So the 46 units do not play into that 7 to 10?
Correct. That is correct. I want to address the code violation and the land clearing that was done without a permit. I am aware that that was done. I also know from other clients that unfortunately there are those people who aren't always above board and upfront with landowners and don't pull permits when they are required to do so. We have been in business for quite a while, and this has happened to multiple clients of ours, where they have been misled about the requirement and the need for a land clearing permit. And they have been caught, they have received a code violation, and they have had to make reparations. This is one of those cases. So he is doing everything that he can to make reparations. Part of that are the replacement plantings of the 27 oaks and 36 cabbage palms. We did have a second environmental study done immediately after the land clearing, and of course at that time there wasn't much to discover because the land had been cleared. And of course, you know, after you clear land and there's no trees and understory to retain soil when there's a 100-year storm event, the property floods. So that also happened.
And when was that? It was a 2022 code violation, but I don't recall seeing a date.
It was, I tried to look back on my notes and I didn't bring it with me.
It preceded the storm, though. It preceded Hurricane Ian.
I think there were multiple storm events.
The clearing was before Hurricane Ian.
Thank you.
Prior to the land clearing, though, it did flood with Harvey, because that's when the gators came in my pool from the lake over.
Wow.
So that land did flood when Harvey was on the other side of the state, so.
Wow.
Or the other Gulf Coast.
Okay.
So.
I have to ask one question to the young lady. Are you implying, or are you suggesting, or are you telling us that the person that's hired you isn't the one that did the land clearing?
The person that hired me is the current property owner. He hired a company to clear the land.
Okay, he did.
He did.
So he's the one that you were referring to as you couldn't trust.
No.
No, sir. And I apologize.
I just needed to clarify that.
I understand, sir, but just in general, as I said at the beginning, and I said that because there is often confusion, the administrative code is very clear, and so we've got to follow that. So she's been very kind to answer questions, but it's really not appropriate to be asking them. So I'm going to ask if everybody can just hold those, and she's going to go through her rebuttal. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Lighting. There was a concern about lighting. When we submit for the development order, we will be required to provide a photometric lighting plan. The land development code requires a 0 light trespass at the property line. So that means there won't be any light trespass adjacent to your properties. And again, I'm trying to go one at a time here. Safety for the helipad. At the time of development order permitting, we will be required to get a tall structures permit to demonstrate safety issues for the helipad. The dumpster, we are providing one dumpster. It may end up having multiple pickups a week. Excuse me, I went too far. The dumpster is located right here, as far away from the residential property as possible.
So the individual buildings, it will be the tenant's responsibility to
Yes, ma'am.
transport their trash on site to that one centralized location?
Yes.
Is it noted on here somewhere? I see the clubhouse. Is it next to that?
It is. There used to be text there, and the text may have, layer may have been turned off.
Is it the square right immediately beneath the clubhouse?
It's just,
Okay.
yeah.
It seems to have some kind of it's not written, but there is some kind of hashing or something.
Yes, there's concrete hatching there. I'm going to go on to traffic. So the traffic impact study determines the impacts of this development on the level of service on the surrounding roads. The traffic generated in the AM peak hours, which is from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m., is 28. The PM peak hours, which was from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m., is 35 peak trips. So those numbers do not generate the need for turn lanes or for any type of signalized intersection for this development. It also does not degrade the current levels of service of Kelly Road. So Lee County DOT staff and transportation did find the traffic impact study consistent with the Land Development Code. Concerns about water flow. There were quite a few, and Dean and I have discussed this. We have not submitted the development order for this project yet. Neither one of us have remember that an ERP has been submitted to the district for this area, not for this property or any of the surrounding properties. Earlier in my presentation, I did mention that the commercial property at the corner of Pine Ridge and Kelly Road has a current DO and is under construction. They have cleared the land. So I know that they have drainage plans, approved drainage plans. So we will look at that to see how they have addressed drainage for the lake and for this area of property. I know the property to the west, Beach Walk Isles, does have an ERP. So of course, in our development order, we will be required to look at the ERP for Beach Walk Isles and probably address the entire lake management system, Lee County DOT's drainage easement, and the IDD canal to make sure that it all works as it's supposed to correct any insufficiencies in the drainage.
And that will happen at the county level as well as at the state level with the South Florida Water Management permit?
Yes.
Okay. So
If that's required, because
if it's required
Yeah.
from the district. But
Yes,
the
ma'am.
county at a minimum is going to look at detailed plans and ensure that there is some drainage plan and sheet flow control or surface water management system that's going to be in place before you can start constructing
Absolutely.
this plan that you have proposed.
Absolutely.
And what is the threshold for the district permit at this point?
2 acres of impervious or 10 acres of land size.
Okay. And it's unclear based on this plan what.
I'm going to get to one more thing before I address the buffer in the wall. There were questions about whether building number 1 was going to have balconies. So we do not have final architectural plans for the buildings at this point. We wanted to make sure that we got through the rezoning because we knew there were going to be conditions and things like that. So staff has conditioned that building number 1 is not permitted to have balconies on the west facade of the structure facing the lots of Beach Walk Isles. It is not conditioned that the north, south, or east facades cannot have buffers. So, I'm sorry, balconies. I said buffers. Thank you. Balconies. And lastly, the difference between a wall and berm and the west buffer. So the Land Development Code allows for an 8-foot high wall or an 8-foot high wall and berm combination. Sometimes, especially when there's an environmental resource permit required by South Florida Water Management District, a berm is required around your property, and that berm could be 2 feet tall. So you would have a 2-foot tall berm with a 6-foot tall fence. So that creates the wall and berm combination. So that's where that comes in. And that's how we read it as wall or wall and berm combination. So someone had wanted to know the difference between those two terms.
But in this case, you're looking at an 8-foot wall, has been my understanding.
we're assuming that we will not need an ERP, so no berm will be required, and we're proposing a wall.
And if it is a wall, there was a lot of concern about it being concrete or what construction material that was going to be from.
That is correct. So there does seem to be a lot of concern over the structure of the wall. The Land Development Code permits different types of materials that are permitted to be used for a buffer wall. Those materials include wood, concrete block with stucco, PVC. It does not permit chain link fence. We do not have a specified material as of yet. We probably won't decide until we are further along in the development order process.
Is there any consideration though in that? Because it used to be common in zoning resolutions, it would specify a concrete masonry wall, and in this location, it would seem appropriate to me, given that they are on the coastal high hazard, that it would not be wooden, as you said, because I know wooden fences, for example, after the storm, wouldn't even be re-erected because they were obliterated to such an extent.
I was trying to find the aerial, I went the wrong way. So the property to the west has a, can you blow this exhibit up, Adam?
I can get on Lee Spins. Does that help?
Okay. Well, I just wanted to say that the property to the west has a project wall along Kelly Road. And it appears from previous aerials that the fence along the backyards of the abutting properties may have blown down and been destroyed, along with my fence in my yard during Hurricane Ian. So I don't want to speak for the applicant since he's not here. And I have not spoken with him about the type of buffer wall at this location. We did ask for a deviation for the buffer along the west. We are requesting a 15-foot wide buffer that allows for an 18-foot wide, 18-foot long parking space length, a 24-foot wide drive aisle, another 18-foot long parking space, and then the building before you get to the dry detention areas and then the lake. And I know someone else had mentioned, why can't we widen the buffer and lose parking spaces, and that is why. So that is right here. I will leave it up to the hearing examiner. If you decide to condition that this wall needs to be concrete and stucco as part of your decision-making process, and I'm going to go back through here one more time to see if I got everything else. I think I got everything. Madam Hearing Examiner, did you have anything on your list that I didn't get?
I'm looking as well. Do you happen to know, there was height concerns and about potentially limiting the height? Do you know what I asked about the existing buffering between the western property line of this property and the eastern of the Beach Walk community. Do you know what the height is in Beach Walk? 35 is standard for residential zoning districts, so I think it's 35 right now. Is that correct?
It's 35 right now, correct.
Okay, I would assume. There was questions about the height of the buffer trees at planting. Can you recollect that again? If I recall, I just want to confirm, there was a different height for the building 1 area so that that was taller, if I'm correct. I think that was a condition of the deviation approval that was requested.
Yes. Canopy trees must be 12 feet in height with a 3-inch caliper and 6-foot canopy spread. And that's an increase. Typically, they are 10 feet in height with a 2-inch caliper and a 4-foot canopy spread. In addition, the clusters of palm must be staggered at, must have staggered heights between 12 and 16 feet of clear trunk.
Thank you. I assume staff has responses as well. I'm going to hold any additional questions I have until we hear from Adam.
For the record, Adam Mendez, Senior Planner at the Zoning Section. So with this process here before you, we're requesting to leave the record open for post-hearing written submittals. And in that process, I have some things here that I've noted from public comment that I'm going to take back and revisit with staff collectively, including conditions concerning the dumpster location. And there's also a concern that there's going to be additional locations given the distance from the southern area to the buildings in the northern area. So where dumpsters may reasonably occur closer to these buildings, there's questions concerning architectural features. Architectural features, especially for multifamily buildings, aren't generally part of the zoning discussion. In this case, because we have a situation for a building 20 feet from the west boundary line, staff did include a condition concerning just that elevation that has the most potential for impact. There's concerns about the north and south side, so we'll take those back and evaluate those to see if balconies or exterior stairwells are prohibited on building 1 in general. There was concerns with balconies on buildings 4 and 3, whether they're going to be just adjacent to the lake or whether there'd be balconies overhanging the parking spaces, although seems unlikely. We'll certainly consider those also in conditions. Mr. Seeley had a question specifically about building 1. He referred to a 20-foot easement. I think what he meant was a 20-foot setback. So a building setback is different than a buffer. The buffer that's required between multifamily and single family is only 15 feet. That's what the code required buffer is. So the building's going to be 20-foot setback, but the buffer requires only 15 feet wide. Additionally, that buffer specifically in the code does not require a wall. It just requires certain plantings and some shrubs. So the condition in the recommendation ensures that that wall is carried through, or wall and berm combination, all the way to the north property line. And in that specific area, the wall is conditioned to be set back 15 feet as opposed to 10 for additional plantings that are going to be in front of building 1 and are designed to create opacity for that facade of the building. There was concerns regarding the helicopter flight path to the north. That helicopter pad's approximately 1,000 feet from the northern boundary of this property as measured on lease spins. But as part of the zoning process, and Ms. Martin made mention of it, this is a conceptual process. At time of development order, a lot of these things concerning noise and lighting, drainage, those things are evaluated with civil engineered plans and through processes and different agencies in some instances. But the Director of Public Safety and the Lee County Mosquito Control District, which both operate helicopters in the area, rotorcrafts, they evaluate these zoning actions as they come in and provide comments and feedback. And for both of those entities, or both those agencies that reached out, they had no objection to the location and design of these buildings in a conceptual sense. Ms. Martin indicated that through the review process at the development order level, they will have to obtain a tall structures permit, likely for the building that's going to exceed 35 feet, the 45-foot building adjacent to the warehouse. And through that process, there's additional consideration and additional input from agencies that have concerns with flight path. There was also concern about if this obstructed the flight path, would that reroute flight paths over the neighborhood? I don't have information on that at this moment, but I'm sure at a later stage, or if you want to reconvene with staff or me after the hearing, we could perhaps get you in contact with someone that give you more definitive answers on something like that. Well, 45 feet isn't as high as what I've seen in reviews for like cell towers and things like that that actually create a real obstruction to flight path. I don't know if that's going to really trip or make the difference, that 10 feet between 35 and 45 feet, but you know, that's something that we have to kind of look further into, but it's noted in my concerns here. There was some concern about the types of tenants because it's affordable housing, and that the type of tenants or their social status, it's not considered here in a zoning action, so we don't have much comment on that. Elements concerning noise are regulated in general by the Lee County Noise Ordinance. There's maximum noise levels that are acceptable at different times of the day or night, and those are regulated 24/7 by the Sheriff's Department. There was a concern regarding the increase from 46 units to 69 units, or the additional 23 units of bonus density, and some of those concerns were the relationship between the site design and those additional units. So additional parking space, creating additional pavement, less room for things like buffers and things of that nature. Staff has to evaluate all bonus density requests based on certain review criteria. And the review criteria requires that the bonus density units, where we're talking about 23 units, that those 23 units do not travel through areas on road networks, significantly lower density units. And so we have, until they reach the nearest collector arterial street. Kelly Road is a major collector road, so they do not have to travel on a local road through areas of lower density in order to reach the nearest collector arterial street, obviously. So they meet criteria 1. Criteria 2 is compatibility. And I have a very extensive analysis as to compatibility and how that's weighed in a zoning action in the staff report. And I encourage you, if you haven't been able to read that, to take a look at that, and feel free to reach me if you have any questions on that. But staff was able to find that this particular layout, as predictable as it is on a master concept plan, can afford surrounding properties with compatibility if conditions are in place concerning buffering and the wall that's required along the west boundary line. I think that's all I have on this. I don't want to duplicate what Ms. Martin stated, but if you had any further questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
I believe that covered what I had written down. I want to be clear about what it is that we're leaving the record open for, though, because if we're going to be getting into substantive analysis and things of that nature, that should happen in another hearing. So I'm not clear if that's what you're asking for, or if we're just talking about the parties getting together and providing some proposed language to amend conditions and deviations that we already have.
We're aiming to do that, and if you, when you receive the response, you feel that they're substantive in nature, leave it to you to decide.
Yeah,
yes, thank you.
I want to be clear that you're operating within that confine, and if there isn't agreement on things, you can indicate that. It's not that you have to be in agreement, but I'm uncomfortable accepting volumes of justification narratives and things of that nature. If that's substantive to the case, then that needs to happen in a public hearing. But certainly if it's administerial in any kind of capacity and you're just trying to tweak some language and it sounds like provide some greater protection in terms of what the development's actually going to look like for dumpster location, opacity, balcony location, those things, then that can happen after. But certainly just with a mind towards that, I want to put you both on notice, I guess, that if it gets to that point, then we will have to schedule another day of hearing. If not, and it doesn't rise to that level, it's simply expanding upon what's already been provided, then we can do that. So how much time is it that you need, do you think, for you to get together and provide that?
My understanding is that it's more or less just some housekeeping to incorporate the missing condition from Exhibit G from environmental. And then a second look at deviation number 4. Maybe enhance the condition of the dumpster locations and the architectural conditions for balconies.
Okay, so then we can leave it open for that purpose. Just so everyone is aware, I am going to be conditioning a masonry wall, so if you want to go ahead and make that change now, it needs to be concrete. I'm not comfortable even considering recommending this without that. So if you want to just include that, thank you. If you want to include that in the revisions, that's fine, but I want to give you ample time because it sounds like there's several factors to that. Even if it's housekeeping, I don't want to hold you to next week or something that close. So I want to give you time to get that done realistically. So are we thinking 2 weeks?
Friday, the 29th is just over 2 weeks by end of day, and if we need additional time, we'll reach out if that's
Yes.
okay with you.
You can request that in writing to my office, and I will grant additional time if you need it. Otherwise, if you can provide a joint submission to the greatest extent possible and just identify where there's any areas of disagreement by end of business on the 29th, I will appreciate that. To the members of the public that came today, thank you again for providing your comments. You've heard me to take note of them. There's going to be some additional information provided. If you filled out a card, you will receive a copy of the recommendation that I'll be making to the Board of County Commissioners, as well as the date of the hearing that will be held. That is held in their commission chambers, and that will be the final hearing on this matter. So again, I appreciate everyone coming today. Thank you for your time. Please stay well and stay healthy. And if you've got additional questions that are not related to the proceeding itself, in terms of process, please ask those to the parties before you exit today. Was your question, sir, related to process?
I don't know if the process or not, but you did state concern about drainage, and that was not mentioned in the rebuttal.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. So we'll conclude for today, and we will again reconvene if necessary. If not, I look forward to receiving the written submissions by end of business on the 29th. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.